This is JD of BVTV News, and I'm back to give y'all the latest and greatest news in the sport of boxing. With that being said, if this is your first time on the channel, I'd like to invite you to hit that subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so you are updated on the latest and greatest news that we report here at Boxing Vibes TV. Now, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the newly crowned 154 champion, Sebastian Fundora, and the choices he has on the table to either face off against Errol Spence Jr. or face off against a Terence Bud Crawford. Now, let's listen to Sebastian Fundora in the immediate post-fight press conference after his win over Tim Tszyu.
My question to you is, the WBO orders to fight Crawford in that 4-year G-slip. Under any circumstances, will you vacate the WBO belt to fight Errol Spence?
Whatever they give, Errol Spence is a great opportunity. I think it's a match made in heaven. But Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. I would like to fight.
Now, when you listen to Sebastian Fundora's comments, it sounds as if the real dog in him and the real fighter in him wants to defend his titles against Terence Bud Crawford. But we all know that, Terence Bud Crawford is not a part of PBC at this point. Due to the Errol Spence Jr. rematch not happening, it then put Terence Bud Crawford back as a free agent. But what gets very intriguing in all this is that while Terence Bud Crawford is no longer with the PBC, he took a flight on down to Puerto Rico a few weeks ago to specifically set things up with the WBO so that either Tim Tszyu or Sebastian Fundora, upon winning the bout, would have had to face off against him for that 154-pound strap. But as of recent, last week, suddenly Errol Spence Jr. has entered the picture at 154. And suddenly rumors started to swirl that it would be Errol Spence Jr. and Sebastian Fundora facing off against each other for the 154-pound strap from the WBC and WBO. Now, I don't really think that WBO strap will end up on the line if Sebastian and Errol Spence go into a bout. I believe that they're going to end up stripping that WBO title due to what they promised Terence Bud Crawford. So it puts, Sebastian Fundora in a situation where he really has to make a true decision as to whether he's going to toe the company line or whether he's going to be a real champion and face off against Terence Bud Crawford and keep that WBO and WBC title around his waist. Now, what I believe is going to transpire is I believe that he will end up vacating that WBO belt. And now I'm going to say it is flat out wrong for Errol Spence Jr. to end up jumping the line and getting into the ring with Sebastian Fundora for an opportunity at a 154-pound strap when he didn't avenge that loss to Terence Bud Crawford. And right now, you're not even willing to face off against Crawford at 154. That's dead wrong. And I believe most honest and fair-minded observers would agree with that notion. But I will say, after thinking about it a little bit, I can't lie, y'all. This is PBC's only play if they're really going to make money at 154. They have to go Errol Spence Jr. versus Sebastian Fundora. And here's why. When you sit back and you look at the fighters right now from PBC who could potentially make up their current 154-pound stable, believe it or not, there's arguably about 6 fighters that fit into that category right now. And let's name them off. You got Sebastian Fundora. You got Tim Tszyu. You have Jermell Charlo. Everybody forgets about Jermell, but Jermell is still lurking out there unless he decides to come back at 160. But you have Jermell Charlo. Then you have Danny Garcia, because if Danny Garcia returns, he's definitely coming back at 154. Danny G is not going back down to 147. Then you potentially have a Keith one-time Thurman. Because, of course, the whole idea for Keith Thurman was for him to try out 154 against Tim Tszyu. And then if he liked how he felt or potentially beat Tim Tszyu, then you would have seen Keith Thurman permanently move up to 154. And then you have a Errol Spence Jr., who is now at 154. So again, you got Spence, you got Thurman, you got Danny Garcia, you got Jermell Charlo, you got Tim Tszyu, you got Sebastian Fundora. So that's a stable of 6 fighters for the PBC that would make up their current 154-pound stable. And you know the real reality of it all is Terence Bud Crawford would beat all 6 of them. Yeah. The reality is PBC knows that Terence Bud Crawford would beat all 6 of them. We've already seen him demolish Errol Spence Jr. Nobody, when you look at that Tim Tszyu fight with Sebastian Fundora, nobody right now would probably put their money on Fundora or Tim Tszyu to beat Terence Bud Crawford. Danny Garcia has been inactive for so long. Nobody believes right now that a Jermell Charlo would come back and beat a Terence Bud Crawford. And I don't believe there's anybody who believes that Keith Thurman would beat a Terence Crawford. So when you look at it from that picture, while it's dead wrong, and I'll be the first to say this Spence versus Fundora fight is flat out wrong, I can't lie. It's really PBC's only play for them to make a number of fights at 154. So essentially, PBC has to play keep away again because you can't afford it right now. You cannot afford a Terence Bud Crawford, who is the pound-for-pound best, to beat Errol Spence Jr. again. You can't have that happen. You allow Bud to beat Errol again right now, then that totally washes a lot of star power away from Errol Spence Jr. If you bring Errol Spence Jr. back against Fundora, this is the opportunity for Errol Spence Jr. to potentially take the titles. And then what ends up immediately happening if Errol beats Fundora is now you have the narrative where Errol Spence Jr. would simply just say, hey, man, I was weight drained at 147, even though I was there for so long. Now I'm a reign king at 154. And then all you would end up seeing is PBC milk holding the titles for another couple of years while Terence Bud Crawford turns 37, turns 38, and then maybe, just maybe, you would have Terence Bud Crawford fall off a bit, and then you really have a crack at one of those PBC fighters beating him. But that ends up being the real reality of this whole thing. While it's dead wrong that Fundora, should not be going into the ring against Errol Spence Jr., the reality is because Terence Bud Crawford is so elite, and because Terence Bud Crawford is unwilling to sign his career away to PBC, the only play they have to provide, a round robin system and a number of fights for Amazon Prime is, all right, we got to play keep away again from Terence Bud Crawford if he's not really going to join us, right? So now that'll put Terence Bud Crawford in a unique scenario where here we are yet again where Bud is going to have to go search for the money fights. Now, even if the WBO were to strip Sebastian Fundora and give it to Bud or allow him to fight for the title, I can't lie, it ends up being a tricky predicament because, yeah, he would be the champ at 154, but we all know that a lot of these mandatories are relative no-names. That's the honest truth. So it would be Terence Bud Crawford at 37 years old, 38 years old, having to settle for no-name fighters challenging for that 154 belt. So when all this goes down, you might not even really see Terence Bud Crawford really start to worry that much about that title if PBC plays keep away with their fighters again, because at that point, Bud will have to go hunting again for the likes of maybe a Chris Eubank Jr. at 160 over in the UK, maybe a Conor Benn over in the UK. So he might have to go try to get some of that UK money or pull up and go have a conversation with Mr. Turkey Al-Sheikh in order to truly get paid. Because we all know the play right now that's going to go down with PBC. So at the end of the day, while it's dead wrong, I can't lie, man. This is the only play there is for PBC. And I'll say it again. Right now, PBC has a healthy roster where they could do a 154-pound round robin for Amazon Prime and make some fights. You got Tim Tszyu, who will be back. Sebastian Fundora, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Jermell Charlo. So you got a couple of fighters that you can mix and match for a number of bouts for Amazon Prime. I mean, while Terence Bud Crawford is the best and he deserves to be fighting Sebastian Fundora, this business move is the only logic that makes sense for a PBC if they don't want Terence Bud Crawford to kill their whole roster. Because right now, who they have at 154, Bud would slice through all of them, straight up, all the way down the line. He would dice up all of them. So it is what it is, man. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this Sebastian Fundora situation and him going into a bout with Errol Spence Jr. Do you think he should buck back against PBC and end up saying, no, I'm going to go with Bud Crawford, period? Or do you think he should toe the line and, engage in another saga of keep away from Bud Crawford that we already saw at the welterweight division? Let me know what y'all think in the comments. This is JD of BBTV News. I'm going to keep giving y'all the latest and greatest news in the sport of boxing. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you're updated on our latest dropping on our page. Till next time, deuces.